South Carolina's Route 29 is a 110-mile state highway that runs southwest from the Savannah River to North Carolina's state line. Less than 60 miles north of Anderson is the town of Spartanburg, South Carolina. Known as the Hub City, it was a large train center in the late 1800s. For the last several years, Spartanburg County has been the hunting ground of the Route 29 serial killer, who has been targeting young male college students. 37 men have been slain over the course of the past 4 years. Butchered and bludgeoned, many of their bodies were later recovered off Route 29 near Cowpens, a wooded and remote stretch of road in between the towns of Spartanburg and Gaffney. This area has been nicknamed the Forest of Folly by a local historian. The following is the story of the Spartanburg slasher, also known as the Route 29 killer. But before that, this video is brought to you by Financial Stream, a subscription streaming service with thousands of award-winning self-help and financial audiobooks and documentaries from some of the world's best thinkers, including exclusive originals like Change Your Life Now, a view-changing book for bettering yourself financially and physically. Go to financialstream.com/purpledelicious for basic access to the world's top self-help audiobooks and documentary series. And for our fans, use a promo code PURPLEDELICIOUS and get 5% off. That's just $28.50 per month. For the very best in financial programming, choose Financial Stream. Thank you again to Financial Stream for sponsoring this video. David Greenwater was an 18-year-old college student. He had spent most of his life in Spartanburg, but spent a considerable amount of time away living in Texas for school. He eventually moved back to his hometown. Greenwater grew up with the nickname Motor Boo because of the large amounts of energy he tended to exude when he was little. Though Greenwater had a full-time landscaping job, he had taken up the hobby of metal scrapping abandoned buildings at night. Greenwater did this to make extra money. He enjoyed scrapping for metal exclusively at night because it gave him extra time to listen to audiobooks and podcasts. On June 29, 2022, Greenwater left his parents' home for a relaxing night of metal scrapping in abandoned homes in the nearby area. This would be the last time he would be seen alive. On July 3, 2022, the body of David Greenwater was discovered just 6 days after his 19th birthday in a wooded area off of Route 29. The condition of his body was surprising. But before we get to that, a word from our sponsor, Hello Food. Are you tired of grocery shopping? The process of going to the store and buying food has become such a drag these days. Thanks to Hello Food, that is no longer the case. At the click of a button, a Hello Food representative will deliver food to your exact location. Just simply enter your IP address and have delicious machine-crafted meals delivered right to your exact location. For 10% off your first 2 purchases, head to hellofood.com/purpledelicious or just click the link below and use the code PURPLEDELICIOUS10 to get 10% off your first 2 orders. That's only $63.99. So head over to hellofood.com/purpledelicious using code PURPLEDELICIOUS10 for 10% off your first 2 orders. And now, back to the video. He was on his back in grass muddy from rainfall. He had been assaulted, robbed, beaten, cut, and shot 7 times in the head, and 1 time in the chest with a .38 caliber handgun. He was fully clothed except for his pants, shirt, and jacket. Police would later determine the cause of death was strangulation. However, they believe the crime itself took place in a different location, and his body had only been dumped in the area. This crime appeared to be an isolated incident, and it would go unsolved. However, this would be proven to be incorrect 2 weeks later on July 23, 2022. Harold Tacoma was known as Gizmo to his friends and family. He was a 19-year-old student at the local agricultural college and a landscaper during the summers in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Harold was regarded as a loud and obnoxious man who was only concerned for himself. He still lived at home with his parents. His well-known anger issues often placed him in precarious situations. On the night of July 23rd, Harold left his parents' home to buy alcohol for a gathering of friends later that evening. He stopped at an Ingles grocery store to buy cases of beer. Witnesses would later remark on his intoxicated and aloof demeanor. As he was leaving, he sent a text to his friend that stated, "On the way." It would be the last time he would ever shop or send a text. Gizmo's family reported him missing the following day after he failed to come home. But before we get to that, a word from our sponsor. Are you tired of not having anonymity on the internet? The threatening idea of random people knowing your information is bone-chilling. Thanks to our sponsor, Warmka VPN, that is no longer the case. Just simply enter your bank information and have privacy secured for just $50 a month. Head to warmkavpn.com. Click the link below and use the promo code PurpleDelicious10 to get 10% off your first month. That's code PurpleDelicious10 at warmkavpn.com to get 10% off your first month. Click the link and thank you to Warmka VPN for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it. His body was located on the western bank of the Pacolet River in a wooded area off Route 29. He had been dumped in nearly the same spot as Greenwater. He shared the same cause of death, strangulation, as well as also being shot with a .38 caliber handgun. He was recovered wearing a red flannel and overalls. His shoes were never found. It was speculated that the perpetrator murdered Gizmo against Gizmo's wishes. Later in 2022, the authorities were reluctant to admit a connection between the two crimes, but it was difficult to deny. The two men lived 1 mile apart in central Spartanburg. Both were male college students with their remains dumped in the same location. It wouldn't take long for investigators to discover that another male college student had been murdered in Spartanburg, South Carolina, in the same week, just 2 miles away off Route 29. They suspected it was a spree killing, and they began to connect the murders of Greenwater and Tacoma to that of Jefton Blazer. Jefton Blazer was a 19-year-old in mid-2022. He had plans on attending college in the upcoming fall for a degree in math. He worked evenings at a local Chipotle to generate a sustainable income for his lifestyle. He wasn't scheduled to work on July 29th, but he had switched shifts because he reportedly felt like it. His night started slow. No one had been in the establishment for hours. He spent his time communicating with friends on social media. Around 9 p.m., moments before the attack, Jefton sent one final text to his friends that said, "One sec, the weirdest fucking guy just showed up." Police believe immediately after this, a man entered and baited Blazer out of the restaurant under the guise of an emergency. He then restrained him after a surprise attack and forced Blazer into his vehicle and immediately wheeled down Route 29. At 4 a.m., a fisherman reported hearing multiple gunshots. His body was found by search dogs later that morning in the same forest off Route 29. But before we get into the details, a word from our sponsor. Building your online business? Go to scottstream.com and set up your online empire on one streamlined platform. Add products, showcase them dynamically, streamlined, transparently, visually, vigorously, and seamlessly monitor your catalog. Accept one secure payment, and design your website down to the very last minute pixel. Drive more streamlined transactions with dynamic, customizable, streamlined payment methods and rigid product subscriptions. Retain customers with a streamlined, peer-based loyalty monitoring program. Email automations and reach millions with streamlined, dynamic sales channel integrations. Complete your setup with a new dynamic, streamlined, personalized analytics control panel. Make streamlined business decisions and start the dynamic next phase of your streamlined business. Construct, direct, and blossom from one computer. Go to scottstream.com, click the link below, and use the promo code PURPLEDELICIOUS5 to get 5% off your first subscription payment. That's code PURPLEDELICIOUS5 at scottstream.com. Go to ScottStream and launch your online business today. Now back to the video. He was completely naked, except for his shirt, pants, and Chipotle apron. His hat was never recovered. He was strangled, stabbed, beaten, and shot 8 times in the back with a .38 caliber handgun. Police initially believed that he had been struck and strangled like Greenwater in Tacoma. However, the cause of death was later ruled to be caused by trauma to the head. On August 10th of 2022, a task force was created, including the FBI, to investigate the killings. The task force, assembling their caseload based on 3 criteria. 1. The victims were murdered. 2. The victims were enrolled in higher education. And 3. The bodies of the victims were near and/or on Route 29. 2 days later, another attack would occur, only this time, the victim would survive. On August 12, 2022, a 4th incident occurred. The name and details of this victim have not been released to the public for fear of reprisal against him or his family. He was a 21-year-old store clerk working at a gas station off of Route 29. Around 5 a.m., what he described as the creepiest looking man he had ever seen entered the store. He wore brown pants, leather shoes, and a dark blue sweater with short-length brown hair. He had dark brown eyes that almost appeared yellow. He asked for a hot meal, which the store did not have. He recommended a few places to eat nearby, and the man left. However, he returned shortly after with a long knife and a pistol. He shot the store clerk and jumped the counter. He proceeded to beat, stab, strangle, and shoot the store clerk 6 times with a .38 caliber handgun. After this, the man left the store and was never seen again. The store clerk was later discovered by bystanders and taken to the county hospital to be treated for wounds. A description of the killer was quickly generated into a police sketch and released by the Spartanburg Police Department. With that, let's jump into the suspects. The first suspect is 20-year-old Richard Gubone, who was the favorite suspect of the former parents of David Greenwater. Gubone was known by locals to be a troublemaker, even going as far as to run a meme social media account in high school. In the days leading up to David Greenwater's murder, Gubone expressed interest in getting lunch with David Greenwater. On the night of Greenwater's disappearance, Gubone claims that he was playing video games with his friends online. Suspiciously, this account was also verified by his friends and parents, which he lived with at the time. On the night of Harold Tacoma's murder, Gubone's whereabouts are unknown, though cellular pings from that night place his movements in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Suspiciously, in the months leading up to the murder of Jefton Blazer, Gubone was known to frequently express harshly negative views toward the local Chipotle restaurant, the same restaurant Jefton Blazer worked at. Regardless if Richard is the killer or not, former police investigator Ian Popp labeled Richard as his favorite suspect for the Route 29 cases due to the clear motive and flimsy alibis. The second suspect is 21-year-old Leo McKillum. Favorite suspect of former FBI agent Landon Reichmuth and former child murderer Owen Lee. The two even wrote a book about the case. On August 1st, 2022, Spartanburg police arrested McKillum for driving while intoxicated. When further examined, the back seat of his Lexus LS 400 1998 was covered in blood, and the trunk had multiple unregistered guns and knives. Coincidentally, a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson was recovered, the same caliber gun used in every single murder. The knives discovered were covered in blood. Reportedly, McKillum said that this was from a hunting trip he had just been on, though McKillum's friends and family reported that he had never been hunting before. Another suspicious coincidence is the fact that a journal was recovered detailing and confessing to the brutal murders of 24 young men. Perhaps the most riveting detail is that, according to Reichmuth and Lee, is that members of McKillum's family stated that Leo confessed to 14 murders and future intentions of committing more on Christmas Eve in 2021. Regardless if Leo was the killer or not, the FBI eventually ruled out Leo as a suspect for the Route 29 cases due to him not matching the descriptions of the killer given by the store clerk. The third and final suspect is 22-year-old Jonathan Porterhouse, who claimed to be the Route 29 killer. Never. Porterhouse was a resident of Spartanburg, South Carolina, the same town that the murders took place in. This revelation led investigators to revisit what should have been clear cues. Perhaps the most enthralling part of this lead is the fact that Porterhouse acted weird during police questioning. His girlfriend at the time reported that he would sleep peacefully as if nothing worrisome was on his mind. And finally, Porterhouse's fingerprints were also reportedly found in the vehicle that he would use to commute to work. Here's a quote from former lead FBI investigator Eric Eismeyer on Jonathan Porterhouse. He perfectly fits the profile and description. This is, without a doubt, the guy. The FBI called their search for the Route 29 killer one of the longest and most exhaustive investigations in its history. As of 2024, the FBI case file measured 40 feet long and covered more than 20 suspects, so what is presented here is only the tip of the iceberg. The case was open for 2 years before the FBI finally closed it in 2024, though they are still willing to listen to possible leads. After all these years, people are still transfixed on the identity of the Route 29 killer. But for now, and perhaps forever, the case of the Route 29 killer will remain unsolved. Thank you to today's sponsors for making awesome content like this possible. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more bone-chilling cases like this. As always, don't forget to leave a comment to boost this video's popularity into the stratosphere.